Hello, welcome to my second behind the scenes video. It's been a while since I did one of these actually. The last one I did was back in 2021 for The Grove, which, I wanted to do just because I felt like I had a lot to discuss in terms of the technical issues and the process that I went through to be making the film. The same with this one really. It's been a while since I made one, but I thought I'd take this opportunity to discuss the process of putting this together. So this first sequence where I'm driving down the road at night, that wasn't originally part of the original script. Originally this film was going to be called World's End Lane, and it was going to be filmed in a real location with the same name in Western Turville. There was a real street called World's End Lane, and the original intro had these montage of sequences played to instrumental music. And as soon as I discovered this song After Dark by Mr. Kitty, I thought, well, I've got to use this. And so what ended up happening is I used it in the climax of the film. That was the first scene that I edited together that's coming up, which is set at night. And I wanted to kind of use it in the opening just to kind of structure the film to kind of justify it being in the film, basically. It wasn't intended to be there, but I felt like I needed something to establish the atmosphere and the tone of the film better. So that's what I ended up using. So this first sequence where the actor Ignacio Ferrer, who I've worked with before on my last film, Pyramid, this was shot on a day where it was raining the first hour or two, which raised a few problems just because I've had the issue before where if you don't film in chronological order and you have to go back and film pickup shots or whatever, then you're in a situation where, it might not be raining and then you're having to try and connect two scenes together with different environments, and it's just not going to work really. So I really had to make sure that I got everything in chronological order, which is why having a shot list is so important. If you go in blind, and you're too experimental, which has been the case with me before, then it doesn't tend to work. So you really do need to have a discipline and be a bit more regimental about it. This shot here with the rabbit hanging from the tree, that wasn't originally it was originally part of the first script that I wrote for World's End Lane, but it was nothing that I placed. It was already hanging there when I got there. I just did a location recce, I discovered it, and I thought I wanted to use that to tell the story of this child who'd been murdered, which then feeds into Ignacio's story here, where, he's being stalked through the woods. I wanted to cut away to establish through narration this sequence of events that had happened with the boy being murdered, and then cut back to here where he's staring off, and then I'm going to fade right here. And that's actually my hand, that's Ignacio walking towards me, but he's actually playing himself. There's two different versions of him. So this is his doppelganger he's seeing here. So the idea with the story is to try and illustrate the fact that he is someone who is drawn to danger, he's addicted to danger, and no matter how hard he tries, he can't turn away from it. So after knowing about the dangers of this environment he's in with the child being murdered, that still doesn't deter him from continuing with his endeavour to discover danger and head towards danger. So here you can see with his hand flicking, he's hesitant, he's thinking about it. And then this right here where we have the sound of the electricity is something that occurs frequently throughout the film. The way I've approached it is to kind of work backwards. So in the last part of the film, which takes place at night, you have the street lamps flaring above and then the sound of the electricity, and I've kind of worked backwards, incorporating those sounds into earlier parts of the film, to basically almost like a motif to just kind of connect the film like I did with the opening, using After Dark and then using it again at the end. So that kind of signifies his path towards danger, and that path has led him, as you can see, to himself, staring back at himself from the other end of the trail. So it's down for the audience to decide how well it works, but with the narration, which I've used sparingly, it isn't used to try and spoon feed the audience. It's not used just as exposition, it's also there to just give the audience enough information to then figure out the rest of the story themselves and then tell the rest of it visually. So yeah, this sequence with him appearing and disappearing, it's a very simple setup. I basically just filmed the scene on a tripod, had Ignacio do the whole movement from the far end of the trail to the foreground, then I had him disappear from the frame and cut them both together so it looks like he's appearing and disappearing. So yeah, this sequence here where he's hiding behind the tree, and then you have the alternative or alt Farah, as I refer to him in the script, approaching him. As you can see, he's wearing the green coat, and then the original Ignacio, or the protagonist Ignacio rather than the doppelganger, he's wearing the brown coat, doppelganger's wearing the green coat, and it's just a very simple thing that I've done just to distinguish the two. I've shown the film to a few people and they said the distinction between the two of them should have been a bit more obvious. Like, for example, one of them could have worn a suit, the other one could be dressed as he is quite casually. But, I just thought practically they're running them through the woods, they're filming in the woods. A lot of Ignacio's coats are pretty expensive, and, I didn't want to try and get them too dirty and everything. That's essentially why I've had him dress a bit more practically, and you would in that situation. There's no reason to be dressed in a suit, so I kind of ignored those comments, but it's always good to get feedback. With regards to clothing, you can see Ignacio is wearing a white shirt here. It's a bit of a blooper, but if you watch the beginning of the film where he's walking across the field, in the background there's a white shirt hanging from a tree which has the blood stains on it that will be used for this sequence coming up now. When Ignacio gets shot, assume you've seen the film before watching me talk about it, so there's no spoilers, but yeah, he does get shot, and he is wearing the white shirt just for the fact that I need the blood to be visible. I knew that I was going to be filming at night, and so the red blood patch had to be visible even in a dimly lit environment. So yeah, that's just a bit of a blooper. If you do go back and watch it again, that's shot where Ignacio is walking across the field. There's a white shirt in the background, and that has fresh blood on it. I wanted to apply the blood at the beginning of the day while we were still filming all the woodland scenes, so that when we come to this sequence at night, it would have then dried, so that when Ignacio puts his coat over the top, it's then not going to get wet blood and damaged on the inside, and then he's got to wash it off, and then he's going to complain that it was, so but then that experiment didn't actually work, as you'll see. So this coming up right now, this is my favourite shot of the film. I use that as the thumbnail for the original upload, just because it is the best shot in the film. And now you have the original version of Ignacio walking and staring up the hill, wondering what's going on. You have the instrumental version of After Dark kind of building up, which I thought worked well for the climax of the film, not using the lyrical version but just the instrumental. And then right there you saw the blood patch on the shirt. I've dimmed the lighting here to make the blood look darker red, which it should do. What happened is, because it was raining and because I applied the blood at the time when it was raining, the blood patch basically soaked through the shirt and it kind of spread about 10 inches wide, where obviously if you were just shot right now, that blood would start pouring out and it would be much darker, but the water has obviously coloured it bright red, so that's the only reason why I dimmed the scene, so the blood would look darker than, but because the film is very abstract, I thought I could kind of justify using these creative techniques, which in the end I think worked better. Just like the two shot of them standing at the bottom of the hill and at the top of the hill, kind of fading in and out of reality like a ghost, which does make sense because he's just watched himself being murdered and he's come to the realization that he is in fact dead. So that's my cameo there. That's me with the blonde hair walking past him, and I stop and then carry on walking. The idea with that is to try and basically say I thought I've just heard something, but I can't be sure, or I thought I've felt something, a presence nearby, but I couldn't be sure, so I've carried on walking. And that's just used to bookend the story to say that, you know, Ignacio's character is dead, and it's left ambiguous as to whether there are still some remnants of him left in the world, basically. Um, and with the story being about danger and the fact that he's ignored danger up until this point, it's ultimately led to his death, which we just saw. So if there is any moral or message to this story, it is that if you go looking for trouble, you will find it. So yeah, looking at the credits, it's mainly just me and, well, it's just me and Ignacio, the only people involved. After Dark by Mr. Kitty, and then someone else I know has done the instrumental scores in the film as well, Russ Budgeon. He's a great instrumental composer, but otherwise that is it. There's no one else involved, which, I think on the one hand it's good to be resourceful and work with the limitations you have, but I would like to work with a larger cast of people in future. I'd love to have more of a budget, because this film had no budget at all. I paid Ignacio travel and food expenses, and that was it. So, fingers crossed in the future I can work on a somewhat of a larger scale. Doesn't have to be anything dramatic, doesn't have to be Hollywood level or anything like that. I wouldn't expect to get to that stage. At this point, with the work that I've done, the website being built, the YouTube channel that I host, it does feel very much like a hobby more than anything else. But we'll see where it goes. And so yeah, thank you for watching and listening to me talk about After Dark. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it.